Hello everyone, this is Direwolf20 and welcome to a somewhat different kind of mod spotlight today. I am spotlighting a mod that already exists and is now in currently two different versions. That's right, it's time to look at the modular force field system. This is version 3.0. So a little bit of the backstory for you guys who are interested. Basically, the modular force field system maintained by Thunderdark that we all know and love, Thunderdark needed to stop modding for a little while. So he had to step away from the modding community, gave his mod to Calclavia, who is currently maintaining the modular force field mod. Now, he made a lot of changes to it. So many, in fact, that you guys are about to see basically almost, I don't want to say completely different mod, but very, very different. Calclavia put a lot of time and work into it. Now, another member of the modding community, Manalian, he kind of liked the original traditional way that the mod worked. So there's currently two versions of modular force field. The one from Calclavia, which is named the modular MFFS 3.0, and then there's Manalian's version, which is a lot more true to the original. So I'm going to show you guys both mods. Today's spotlight is Calclavia's version, modular force field 3.0. This mod has changed quite a bit from what you're familiar with. It adds the Coercion driver, it adds the Fortron capacitor, it adds the force field projector, things that look quite different. So it's not quite the mod you're used to. Now, a lot has changed, but a lot has stayed the same. It's basically a modular force field system that you can create all kinds of interesting force fields using a bunch of different mechanics. Now, there's even ways to secure things with, lockdowns and security and all that, all the features are pretty much still there, but there's a lot of cool stuff. So I need to get started showing you guys all the different things of how Calclavia's version of MFFS 3.0 works, and then in a future spotlight, we'll be taking a look at the other mod, the MFFS Classic mode. Alright guys, let's get started taking a look. Alright, so we've got a brand new, totally different mechanics of the modular force field system. Number one, Forcicum is gone. So no longer is the world gen as part of the universal electricity style of the MFFS mod. No such thing. No items, no world gen, nothing of that type. What you basically do is convert energy into force energy directly using a nifty item called the Coercion driver. Okay, let's place this guy down and check him out. Now, basically what you've got here is a block that can receive energy either through the form of Minecraft joules or universal electricity joules or EU. And, different amounts of energy translate differently. So I can pop down this guy right here, and you'll see that right now he's not collecting any energy. By default, the Coercion driver needs a redstone signal to activate, but you'll find that all blocks in the MFFS 3.0 mod allow you to activate the redstone signal on the GUI or the GUI by just clicking on this guy. And as soon as that happens, you can see it's currently running. And you'll see it's getting 40 joules plus 40, and you'll see it's starting to build up. So Fortron is the type of force energy used in MFFS machines. Cool. It's currently running. So it's turning, Minecraft joules directly into the force energy. Another option, of course, is to use EU. So I can place that guy down, and you'll see, of course, it's going to speed up a lot more because this is a high voltage solar array, so it's a massive energy producer for EU, right? You can also use universal electricity to hook this thing up and get it running. Pretty neat. Now, another option you can have if you want to speed things up, so say you've got your Minecraft joules getting pumped in here and it's slowly but surely making its way up, you can also place either lapis or nether quartz into the block. So if I were to get myself some nether quartz and place it right in there, this kind of acts as like an accelerant. So it'll use up the nether quartz over time, but it'll also cause it to create more energy. So you can see we're getting plus 160 now instead of the plus 40 that we were getting without the Minecraft nether quartz. So that's just vanilla world gen stuff, and the same thing with lapis. If you put that in there, the next time it ticks over, it'll have a boost in speed. This number, the next time it ticks, should drop down once it's used up all the nether quartz. It uses one every, so often, every few seconds or so, and eventually it'll drop down to 40 since I've removed the nether quartz from the interface. Now, I should also note that there's only one way to remove it. You'll note that you cannot mine this. It is completely indestructible, except for, I guess, creative mode would probably work, but you want to shift right click this guy with this nifty little device right here called the prototype Omni wrench. That's right, basically any type of wrench will be able to remove that for you. So you've got a nice and easy way to pick up the blocks, and that's true for pretty much all the blocks in this mod. Then again, if we place it down, Again, we'll apply the redstone signal. You can see we're getting plus 40 joules, and it's slowly building up energy once again. So I'm going to place down my high voltage solar array here just to let it build up a bunch of energy inside, just a little bit. That's enough for now, because what I want to show you next is going to be, it's going to need a little bit of juice. Now, there's one other mechanic here. That's the the upgrade range over here on the right. I'll show you guys how this works. So you have a couple options when it comes to upgrades. There's basically two you can place in your Coercion driver. You can put the speed module in, which increases the speed and the amount of boost you get from nether quartz. So by having nether quartz in here and the speed module, you're going to get more of a boost. Your other option here is the capacity module, which increases the overall capacity of this block. Those are the only two upgrades you can place in this thing. Now the next thing I want to tell you guys about is the frequency. Basically, all machines that share the frequency will share Fortron energy. So by default, all blocks placed have a frequency of 0. And any other blocks we place down will also have a frequency of 0, which means that they'll all share force energy. But if you want to have different networks of MFFS stuff, you can go ahead and bump it up to a different frequency number. Now it's real easy to change the frequency. You can either type it in here, and that'll now set this guy to frequency 1, or you can get yourself a frequency card. Okay, you can see the recipe for that's real easy. It's a blank card, which is paper surrounded by steel. Steel, the recipe for which is steel dust. Gets cooked up. And you get steel dust, 4 coal, and 1 iron. Okay, so that's the way you make that stuff. Now the frequency card, real easy to make. You go ahead and just, pop it in here, and you'll see as soon as you place it in, it sets the frequency to match the machine it was placed into. Now if I had a different frequency, I could shift right click. You'll see it set the machine's frequency to 1 again. Cool. Now we're going to leave these guys all at 0, and I'm not going to use frequencies. Frequency cards are completely optional. You can just type the frequency in here instead of shift right clicking on the Coercion driver. Now there's one other function of this block that I want to show you guys, and that is this big huge button in the middle of the interface. What's that do? Basically it changes it from take energy to give energy. Okay, so right now it's draining energy out of the redstone energy cell. If we switch it to integrate mode, it's going to start converting its force energy that it has back into Minecraft joules or EU or universal electricity power. So basically it's turning energy back and sending it in. So that's why our redstone energy cell is gaining energy. But of course we want to derive some power from this thing, so we're going to switch it to derive mode. Cool. Now how can we store this stuff? Good question. I'm glad you asked. Let's take a look at the Fortron capacitor. By the way, how do you make a Coercion driver? It's not too bad. Some steel ingots, which I just showed you how to make, and the focus matrix. Cool. You get 6 focus matrix for this stuff. Not bad. Now, onto the Fortron capacitor, which is another, kind of confusing looking block, but don't worry, it's not too bad. Alright, so we've got 2 linked devices right here, okay? Linked devices 2. That's because these guys are both sharing the same frequency. Not bad. Now, it's also got a range of 15. That's the range at which it can interact with other blocks. If you want to boost that range, you can go ahead and place yourself a scale module up here. Oh, look at that. 47. Okay? That is, you get 1 extra range for each block that you place in there. See that? So the more of these scale modules you put in, the further away it can interact with stuff. And that's just 2 focus matrix like so. Okay, you can see it's currently got a transmission rate of 250J. That's how much energy it can transmit at once. If you want to boost that, go ahead and make yourself some speed modules. That will allow you to boost it by about 50J each. Not bad. And finally, you've got the capacity module, which can go in here. Get you 2 of those. And that will boost the amount of energy that can be stored overall. There you go. That's in kilojoules, by the way, so it stores a lot of energy, but you can see it'll store a lot more if you put enough of these things in here. There we go. Just takes a second for the block to update. So you can see it can store a lot more energy if you place the capacity modules in. Cool. Let's turn this thing on and allow it to start sharing energy. Ta-da! You can see the energy flowing out of the Coercion driver straight into the Fortron capacitor. Pretty nifty. Of course, the blocks also both turn blue when they're on, and when they're off, they'll be red. Neat. Now, there's a couple different modes this can be in. By default, it's in the equalize mode, which spreads the Fortron energy with machines based on the machine's capacity percentage. So it'll try and keep them about the same percentage-wise in terms of capacity. You can see right now it's transferring at a pretty slow rate. But if we bump it up with the speed module here, you'll see it's transferring a little bit quicker. Look at that. Noticeably faster, but it stopped transferring. That's because these guys are about the same percentage-wise in terms of their storage ability. Now, if we want, we can equalize it based on the exact numbers. So we'll have the exact amount of kilojoules in each machine. So right now it's draining out of the Fortron capacitor and trying to keep these numbers about the same. So we're about 10 kilojoules here, we're about 10 kilojoules here. Tries to keep those numbers the same. Okay. The other option is to drain the capacitor and equalizes it with linked machines. It's not going to do that. It's not going to drain it back into the coercion deriver, but it will drain it as much as it can into other machines. And then the other option is to completely fill it, which means it'll do its best to fill up and it won't care about this guy. But we're going to leave it in the default mode, keep it about equal percentage-wise, and I'm going to give this guy a little bit more energy so we don't have to worry so much about power. Look at that. Now we're talking boosting. Yeah, now we're producing lots of energy. Cool. So that is the Fortron capacitor. You can change your frequency here, just like you saw, and you can change different ways it interacts with the nearby blocks, and you've got some upgrades available as well. All right, Direwolf, you've shown us how to create Fortron energy. How do you use it? Well, you'll need a force field projector. Not too hard to make, just requires a diamond and some of those focus matrices. Remember, you get 6 of those per diamond, so a little bit of resource requirements. Let's go ahead and place this guy down. Ta-da! You'll see this guy starting to send his power straight over to the force field projector. That's because it's going to try and do its best to, keep this thing powered up like we want it to. And again, it only has a range of 15 blocks, so keep that in mind. Unless, of course, you add some upgrades. So the force field projector, a complicated looking block, but it's really not too bad once you get the hang of it. It's pretty simple, honestly. You've got 6 directions that you can modify, which we'll get into in a minute. You've got some upgrade slots over here. That's what the matrix slot is for. So let's talk about what we can do with this block. Hint, it's a lot. Well, the basic thing to make is a cube. Cube mode is real easy, just requires 9 of these focus matrices, and we can go ahead and place it right in here, okay? Ta-da! As soon as you place it in, there should be a little representation of a cube showing up right above the force field projector. How fancy is that? Now, if you want, you can go ahead and change the way this cube works a little bit by using the following items: translation modules, scale modules, and rotation modules, and I'll show you guys how these all work right now. Now there's basically 2 things that can be used in the interface here, and you can use them each in 2 different ways. First off, I'm going to show you the most intuitive, the scale module. Increases the scale of a certain component. So let's go ahead and bump 4 of these scale modules into the force field projector and activate it with a redstone signal. One of the first things you'll notice is that the force fields, number 1, look very different. Pretty nifty looking, and they don't all form at once. They basically take a few seconds to form. You'll also note that the force field goes down a few blocks here, so we can see there they are. Cool. Oh, there we go. Be careful, you can get electrocuted if you land in the wrong spot. So we've basically got a cube that extends out 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, which makes sense because we placed these force field projectors in here. So let's go ahead and put a few more scale modules in. I'm going to bump it up to 9, okay? What we should now have is a cube that reaches about 9 blocks away. And again, it doesn't all instantly form. It takes a little bit of time for this force field projector to create this force field, but it will slowly but surely create it. And of course, you guys know that there are speed modules, right? Guess what they do? That's right. Simply place your speed modules in there, and it'll form the force field that much faster. See? Much faster. Cool. So I'm going to take those out. And every time you modify the internal workings of the block, if it's on, it resets the force field and redeploys it. So just to make things look a little bit nicer, I'm going to put about 3 or 4 in there. There we go. That's quick enough, but I like the effect. Nice, right? So that's your basic cube force field. Now, if you want, you don't have to just extend it all at once. So I'm going to bring it back down to 4. Okay. Now, let's say I just want to bump this wall out directly in front of me there. I'm not sure exactly which wall that is, but let's find out. You've got a couple slots here. You've got 2 front, 2 to the right, 2 to the left, 2 to the back, and then you've also got 1, 2 down slots and 2 up slots. Okay, so let's change the scale of the front slots. We're going to bump that up by 4. Okay, where's that at? The front should be, here it is. This is the front. Cool. So we bumped this out 4 further. Now, if we know that's the front, we should be able to change the 4 here to the right, and it should, oh wait, nope, that's the right. Okay, so now we want to do this to the left. Let's try that. Now we're talking. Cool. So you can adjust exactly where these force fields land simply by doing the scale models like that. Now you can also do this nifty little guy right here. Let's try taking a look at the translation modules, because those are kind of like your range upgrades from the old MFFS system. So let's say we wanted to bump this block forward 5. Okay, all we have to do is place the translation modules. We'll put 5 of them in the front, and what that should do is move the entire square forward 5. Okay, So let's take a look. There we go. So the whole thing was bumped forward 5 blocks, okay? And if we want to do that in the opposite direction, maybe move it to the back, we can bump all 5 of them backwards like so. Pretty nifty, right? So you can completely adjust how things are placed in the world by playing with your translation modules and your scale modules, and of course the overall scale of the cube force field. And of course, there's way more than just cubes. There's a lot of cool stuff you can make. So let's take a look at another one. Oh, let's take a look at sphere. That sounds like a good one. There we go. That, of course, looks like a sphere. Nifty. I like it. And if you want to do a tube, we could probably handle that, right? I guess we'll find out. Oh, cool. Look at that. Very cool, right? And there's also pyramid and cylinder. I want to try out cylinder and see what that looks like. This might kill me. It killed me last time. Yeah. Be careful with cylinder because it plants it like right on the ground where you're standing, so you might get zapped if you're not a little careful about it. But, you know, you'll get the hang of it. Neat, right? So there's a lot of different force fields you can do. Check out pyramid mode on your own. Now, there's of course all kinds of upgrades to go along with that. So let me show you some of those now. For example, if you want, you could, bump up, I didn't show you rotations yet, but you saw speed module upgrades. You can also do capacity, increases the capacity of the Fortron energy that it's got. All right, but let's take a look at the field fusion module. That's going to allow you to, like in previous versions, fuse two fields. So if you wanted to have, for example, a cube and a cylinder, a tube, that might be possible. Let's go ahead and get ourselves the Fortron, we'll get the force field projector, okay? And I'm going to turn this thing off for a minute. There you go. Let me get this set up. So let's see what these things look like. I've got right now a tube mode set up right here. And what that does is create a tube. Okay. And then I've got over here a cube. Okay. And I made this guy about this size. Okay. Now without field fusion modules installed on these, you'll see that we've got the tube set up. It kind of extends a little bit outside that one. And this guy, is blocked off there as well. However, if we put field fusion inside the force field projector, making the walls here, it'll kind of fuse these fields, and you'll note that this wall, it kind of allowed these force fields to interact with each other, and they did not, interact in such a way that you got an extra wall here. And you can do the same thing by placing the field fusion in here. You'll see now that we cut off the force field that was up here. So that now we have this nifty little tubing effect that allows us outside the walls of the force field. Pretty awesome. So that's what field fusion does. That's what that upgrade is, and it's a very cool one. Now let's look at the differences between the normal cube mode here that we've got set up. Not tube, but cube. Note that there's a force field down there. However, if we place this one, the field manipulator, in, it'll only create the force field on the same level as the force field projector. So no force field goes below the block that the force field projector is on. Now, there's another mode, by the way, that I haven't shown you guys just yet, and it's called custom mode. I'll show you that in a bit. Now, a personal favorite of mine is the camouflage mode, okay? So we've got the cube mode here. Note that when I place camouflage mode in, it doesn't really look all that different until, of course, I place another non-MFFS block in there. And ta-da! We just camouflage these force fields with cobblestone. That's right. Of course, it is force field, so you can't break it or anything like that, but we camouflaged with cobblestone. You can do the same with dirt or pretty much any other block, and it looks very nice. I think I would like to try it with brick, but for now, we'll hold off because I'm going to show you guys something really cool in just a few minutes. Now there's a few upgrades I haven't shown you just yet, but I promise I will in a few. I want to show you guys the custom mode. This allows you to customize your force field. So right now we've got it in cube mode, right? I'm going to get that off of there. I'm even going to turn this thing off. Okay, let's go find something to customize, like, oh, I don't know. How about this nifty little block that I made over here? Now, the way the custom module works is really pretty nifty. All you gotta do is right-click on a certain block. So I'm gonna make these even a little bit more misshapen. I'm gonna make it look like, probably something like this. Okay, and you wanna right-click on 2 points in the world. So I'm gonna right-click on this point up here, and I'm going to right click on this point down here, and what that's going to do is it's going to take the interior area of that 2 clicks. It's going to find every block in between them, and when I shift right click, it's going to save that field structure. Awesome. Now I'm going to place the custom module inside here. Very cool looking, right? Field size is 24, as you can see. Awesome. Look at that. Let's go ahead and instead of using the scale module, which isn't going to do much of anything, I'm just going to put the translation module in here. I'm going to put about 4 or 5 of them in, because what that's going to do is this thing's actually going to center itself, so it would actually kind of place itself like here in the block. We don't want that. We want it to all be represented above the block. So by putting the translation module in, it kind of bumps it up a little bit. Let's see. Did I set that up right? Nope, I did not. So you can see here, it's kind of representing it. You know what? I want to put the translation module in the up slot. So let's put it up here, and ta-da! Look at that. So you can see we're grabbing the 3 blocks along the base there. And, you know, the up and down and the sides. It's like a little guy putting his hands up in the air, celebrating. And because we clicked on the grass blocks on the bottom, that's why we've got these grass blocks that all go along here. Now, if you really want to see that those are grass blocks, it's real easy. Just place that camouflage module right back in there, and ta-da! It's going to camouflage the blocks to look exactly like what we made over there. So by right-clicking from one point to another, we were able to create a custom field. Wow, that's pretty nice looking, to be honest with you. I wonder if I could... Ooh. Hello, 9x9. How are you? Let's give it a shot. What do you say? Come here, you. I'm going to click on this corner, and then I'm going to click on this corner. And remember, to record this, shift right-click. Field structure saved. Let's come over here and hopefully manage to pull this off. I'm going to take these out, and I'm only going to bump these up by 2. Let's see. Does that look about right? Maybe. We'll find out. Let's put our custom field out, this custom field in. Ta-da! Look at that. How's it going, 9x9? Looking pretty sharp. Now, of course, there's you know, grass blocks down here, so they didn't get replaced. If we wanted them to be replaced, it really wouldn't be too hard. We could put a disintegration module in. Where is that thing at? There it is. Disintegration module is pretty nifty. What it's going to do is it's going to sit there and it's going to disintegrate any blocks that are in its way. We probably don't want to do that right here where we're so close to things, so we're just going to leave it as is because we don't want to actually disintegrate any other blocks by mistake. But you can see some of the dirt that I collected in my inventory just now was starting to get mined up by this thing. Okay, not bad looking, right? Pretty cool. So that is custom mode. You can basically create any shape that you want. Now, if you know, you didn't want the camouflage module in, you don't need it. You could just place that custom mode back in. Let's see. Oh, wrong one. This is the custom mode I want. Cool. I love it. It's so cool looking. And then just take the camouflage away, and you'll see that it'll all be force field blocks, a 9x9 of force fields. Look at that. Awesome. Now, another module I could show you here is, of course, the shock module. You guys should be a little familiar, or at least have a good guess as to what this is going to do. If you come into contact with it, it will shock you. Ouch. Just touching it hurts. Okay, but of course with the shock module not there, it's not going to hurt so much. And don't worry, you know, you really have to kind of get inside these force fields to electrocuted. So if you do accidentally manage to get your way inside, it will hurt. So keep that in mind. Hey, what do I have a chest next to this thing for? Oh, I know, because I wanted to show you guys one of my favorite modules. It's probably the coolest one. I think it is, at least. What am I looking here for? The field something or other module. Where is that? Ah, field stabilizer module. This one is cool. All right, so let's take a look at using the camouflage module, what this is supposed to look like. Okay, if you place a field stabilizer module in here, like so, and inside an adjacent chest, you place, I don't know, some items that this thing is made out of, like cobblestone. What's going to happen is it's actually going to stabilize the force field and use the cobblestone out of the chest to build the structure that we just made. Whoa, look at that. How cool. Yep, it's actually taking the cobblestone out. You can see the cobblestone slowly draining out of here. Now, of course, it's a lot slower to make and stabilize these fields. So if you want, go ahead and throw some speed modules in there, and it'll go ahead and create multiple blocks at once you've added some stabilizers or some speed upgrades. That is cool. Now, of course, since I only supplied it with cobblestone, it only used the cobblestone. If I were to give it some grass blocks like so, it's going to go ahead and, you know, formulate those grass blocks for me. How awesome is that? Nice. Now, because these bottom three are not grass, because just like in vanilla Minecraft, when you place cobblestone on top of grass, it turns into dirt, I better put some dirt blocks in there. There we go, now we're talking. This would be a great thing to build a house out of, or something like that. You can use it to build a house and just leave the force field setup running there, okay? Because what happens is, say, I don't know, a creeper came by and blew up your house. Those creepers, or heck, even worse, Endermen. What would happen? Well, this thing should automatically detect that there's something not right with your blocks. Oh no! Ta-da! Automatic reconstruction. Look at that. So as soon as you break some blocks here, it's going to be like, oh no, I don't think so. Let me rebuild those for you. Of course, you have to keep supplying it with more and more cobblestone. So every time you break a block, it's going to use another piece of cobblestone to reconstitute the design that you made. But that's pretty awesome. Now, if you don't like that design being there anymore, or you want to get rid of it for some reason, hey, I know just the thing. Remember that disintegration module I showed you guys? Yeah, let's take a look at that. The disintegration module, real easy. Just got to find it in here, place it in place of the field stabilizer. What's the disintegration module do? Why, it disintegrates any blocks that are in the way of the force field. So, oh, look at that. There's some red lines showing up all over the place there. Ta-da! And they're disintegrating and breaking the blocks that are in its way. Pretty nifty, right? So the disintegration module will completely clear out the shape of the force field, no more, no less. And once it's cleared out, you remove the disintegration module, and the force field is back in position. Pretty nifty, right? Very cool. I really, really like the stabilizer mode. Now, there are a few blocks it won't work with, or it'll just be a little funny about, so keep that in mind. You know, just different blocks and their mechanics, but it works pretty well for most blocks. One of my favorite modules is also back, by the way, the sponge module. Simply place that in there, and it should get rid of any liquids inside the field. Ta-da! Liquid's gone. Nice job, spun module. I love it. So that covers most of the modules. There's a couple other ones that you can place in there, like the glow module, which makes your force field blocks emit light, and a couple other nifty ones. But I'm going to be done showing you guys the force field stuff for now, though I'm super thrilled about it. And we're going to move on to some of the security features that the mod adds for you. Though I guess before that I should show you guys the remote controller. Neat. This guy's real easy. Just go ahead and walk up here, place him in the frequency slot, I think, or maybe shift right click him on a block. There it is, linked remote to position with force field. And whenever you're anywhere in the world, just right click and ta-da, it's going to show you the interface here. So you can turn on your force field projector, turn it off, or even put items in and out. So we just turned on cube mode. Look at that. And if we want to disable the force field, just as easy. Cool. So the remote controller, nice easy way to interface with your force fields. Now let's talk about security. There's two blocks you want. The biometric identifier, this guy, and the interdiction matrix. Oh boy, needs an ender chest. Oh, dangerous stuff. Alright, biometric identifier and your interdiction matrix. Ta-da! Notice that the interdiction matrix, of course, does use up some energy. Okay, this is the block that allows you to set security in the zone. This is the block that allows you to determine who's allowed to be in your area. So let's take a look at the items you're going to need to mess with this a little bit. First off, you're going to need an identification card right here. It's just one of those blank cards with some redstone, and it allows you to have this identification card, which right now is unidentified. A player can right-click on it, and you'll see the username direwolf20 appears. Cool. So you right-click it to make your own. You can also left-click on players to set their name. Okay, but you don't need to have the player come by. You can actually type their name into an interface, and I'll show you how to do that now. I'm going to get another one of these identification cards. I'm going to place it in here, and if you simply place it in the top slot, you can name it. So we'll call it Notch. Cool. So Notch now has security rights in my field. That's the username on the identification card. It is now Notch. If you want to set rights, it's real easy. Just click and it'll let you configure how the different rights work. So you can turn on and off different rights. Very similar to the old version of the MFFS. Now to demonstrate the rights, I'm going to do something a little bit crazy. I'm going to make the Notch the master ID card holder. Okay. So now Notch is the guy who has master access to all the force fields nearby. Oh boy, that sounds like a bad idea. Alright, well, I guess we'll see what happens, alright? So, now we've got the interdiction matrix. So what can we do in here? The The interdiction matrix has several options available, and you'll note their upgrades have the word interdiction matrix on them. You can have the anti-friendly module, which will kill any friendly mobs nearby. So that's that guy. You can also get the anti-hostile, kill any hostile mobs. The anti-personnel, kill all players within the range. I think I'm going to keep that one out. Confiscate steals any items from a user. We'll keep an eye on that one. We definitely want to try that. The warn module, the block access module, I'm going to show you guys that one. And the block alter module, another good one to show. And then the anti-spawn prevents entities from spawning within the range of the block, so pretty cool. So let's put in these 3 upgrades, 1, 2, and 3. Now you can see that right now its warning range is 3. That's how far away a player has to be to get warned, and its action range is 1. Well, that doesn't seem very far, does it? Let's put a scale module in there. Now we're talking. Cool. So if we turn this guy on, and we turn this guy on, okay, we should note that, oh, what's this? I can't right-click on these blocks anymore. Warning, you're near the scanning area. Uh-oh. So you can see as I got within range of this block, it's starting to give me some warnings. Nice. I'm near the scanning range, but when I get far enough away, it's not going to spam me anymore. Cool. But, you know, we've got this stuff turned on and ready to go. But I can't interact with this block. Why not? Well, because we put in a block that says you can't interact. That's right. Let's turn this biometric identifier off. Now I can get back into it. So within 1 block radius of this block, I have a block in there that says block access module. Prevents an intruder from right-clicking on blocks. Oh boy. If I take this module out and turn on the biometric identifier, oh, I still can't interact with the block. Why is that? Maybe it's because of this other thing right in here, the block alter module. Prevents an intruder from placing and breaking blocks. Let's take that one out of there. Nope, still can't interact with it. Probably need to maybe turn this thing on and off. And then this thing back on. Now we're talking. All right. So this just might need to be toggled on and off before I can really, do anything. Now the cool thing about this is that this protection extends to vanilla blocks. So you can see I can't even open up this chest. You can't right click on anything, even vanilla stuff. You can't right click on any blocks nearby. And I've also got it set up to not allow me to break things. So if I were trying to place a block right next to it, it wouldn't let me. Oh right, I took that module out. Well, let's put it back in. That was the block alter module. Let's turn the security back on. And don't forget, of course, you want to turn this off and then back on. On. Oh, I can't even break this block. It won't let me break it, and it probably, because it's such a short range, it's let me place, but let's try bumping this range up a little bit. So let's turn this off, and we're going to extend the range 1 block further. Okay? Interdiction matrix on. Action range is 2. Biometric identifier on. Oh boy. I can't right click here. I can't even place a block here. Look at that. So it's, a decent range that you get for each one of these. Okay? Pretty nifty. I can't place a block here, but I can here. All right, so basically, the different ranges is the different things you can do. Now, if you want to give yourself rights to stuff, remember, you want to keep your biometric identifier within the range that prevents the right click. Otherwise, anybody can walk up and right click. But let's go ahead and do this. I'm going to give the Direwolf 20 guy, he seems pretty reliable, the ability to, place and break blocks. That sounds good. I'm going to place him right down here. Let's see how this works. So I've got these things on now. I still can't right click on this, but I can break blocks. Beautiful. There we go. Cool. And I can place them too. Good. Let's also give him, oh, you know what? You have to turn off the identifier to modify access. Let's give him the ability to open up GUIs and blocks. Cool. Turn that on, and, oh, now I can open up the interdiction matrix. Cool. I can also open up the chest. Nice. So I've once again given myself the ability to do some cool stuff. I like it. Do note, though, that I did not give myself the ability to be immune to this confiscate module, which is currently in banned mode. So if I say ban all cobblestone, okay, whenever I get kind of close to this block, uh-oh, you're within the scanning range, what's going to happen? One of your items has been confiscated. Oh no. That's right, it stole it, and it seems to have thrown it on the ground, but not a big deal. It should be placing it in the chest nearby. There we go. Now we're talking. So any cobblestone I have in my inventory is going to get confiscated when I get near this block. And throw it in the chest nearby. Of course, if I switch this guy to allowed mode, it's only going to allow me to have cobblestone, which means it'll take all my items but my cobblestone. That's going to be allowed to stay. Everything else, stolen as soon as I get nearby. Alright, back to banning cobblestone. Of course, if I specify on here that you're allowed to, I definitely want to let myself configure the biometric identifier, separate permission right there, but I'm going to allow him to bypass the confiscation mode. That sounds fair. Now, I should be able to hang on to my cobblestone. Oh, not yet. Probably have to turn this off and on again. Now we're talking. Good. Alright, so Direwolf 20 is allowed to do all kinds of stuff. Let me show you guys how to travel through force fields now. You can also disable the ability to use the remote control, but we're not going to worry about that. We're going to allow the player to bypass force fields using the warp ability. So right now I have the warp ability disabled, which means Direwolf 20 is not allowed to pass through the force field under any circumstances. But let's go give him that authority. Simply disable the biometric identifier, give him the warp permission, and then place it back down and turn the identifier back on. Cool. Now you also note that I bumped up the interdiction matrix. I gave it a lot of range so that it can, interfere with these projectors and stuff. There we go. Force field's back on. Still can't just walk through. That's correct. You cannot walk through force fields. However, you can sneak through. Dun 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 dun. Notice that you get a little bit of nausea for passing through a force field, but it's to be expected. Make sure, by the way, this is something that I found to be a little dangerous. Do not let go of shift before you're out of the force field, because if you try to move within the force field without pressing shift, you might get a nasty shock. Just trust me. I got zapped and died. There we go. Yes, it can happen. So guys, I think that about wraps up the MFFS 3.0 Spotlight. As you can see, it's very different from the traditional MFFS mod, the modular force fields that were developed by Thunderdark. Like I said, if you like those better, there is a mod that's keeping true to Thunderdark's original design. So that is an option for you. I don't know, I kind of feel like there's room for both. This mod is so different from that one, like, they both have somewhat of a similar concept, but there's huge differences in what they can do and the different things and the way they work. So I kind of feel like, I don't know, I might have both going on. We'll see. I don't know. Let me know how you guys like this mod. Definitely leave some comments. I think it's pretty cool. Alright guys, this is Direwolf20 signing off. Haven't shown you every aspect of the mod, but I showed you pretty much most of the important and cool ones. I definitely like the ability to make the, custom size and shape of force fields. And you can see over here, I've got this nifty force field set up to do this. Dun dun dun. Of course, he needs a little bit of energy, which I need to turn this on for. Cool. Look at that. I really love that 9x9 force field. It's so neat looking. It even has the furnace and the workbench in here. Of course, you can't interact with them. They're just fake blocks. Unless, of course, you do that nifty thing where it actually replaces them with real blocks. That is one of my favorites. And I think I could come up with some really cool ideas for that. But like I said, we got to wrap up the mod spotlight. So definitely hope you guys enjoyed checking it out. It's a lot of fun. Worth a download. As always, the link will be in the description of the video. This is Direwolf20 signing off. Take it easy.